He got done dirty by them, but the Bruins also should never had fired Jim Montgomery. Welcome back to another episode, you beauties. I'm Zach, joined by Preston. It's been like 2 weeks since we've been actually here.
Yeah.
We had some people come on. We had some other things going on, and now we're back here. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. We're recording on a Sunday morning, which is kind of abnormal for us, so a little tired. But
We woke up to some breaking news with
Yes,
Jim
we did.
Montgomery getting hired by the St. Louis Blues 5 days after getting fired by the Bruins.
Yep.
Jeff Bannister of the St. Louis Blues was their head coach beforehand. He got hired May 8th, got fired November 24th. 22 games as a Blues head coach. He got done dirty by them, but the Bruins also should never had fired Jim Montgomery.
yeah, the way I look at it is we got to remember Bannister also took over as an interim coach last year when they fired Craig Berube. So he had kind of coached like the Blues for half a season last year already. He did have a winning record. I believe it was like 39 wins. I don't remember the losses. In his time in St. Louis, but they had a bit of a slow start to the season. And I guess when you have a coach like Jim Montgomery available and he's interested in coaching your team, you just go and get him.
Yeah, with Jim Montgomery first, I love the hire by the Blues. He's a top 5, top 10 coach in the league, whatever you believe. But things in the Boston Bruins locker room seem to kind of be falling apart because there's reports saying that the Bruins are going to lose multiple players, one of them including Brad Marchand. And if the Bruins don't pick their shit up, Brad Marchand could be a hot commodity come the trade deadline.
I still find it hard to see him leaving. He's been his whole career as the captain. I still have a tough time seeing that happen.
The firing of Jim Montgomery, the players loved him in the locker room, and with this, the players obviously they feel like they let down their head coach because he got wrongfully fired. B, sometimes. Like, I get the Bruins had high standards and everything, but you're coming off a season in which you guys weren't supposed to be the second seed in the Atlantic Division, and you guys had the first seed for most of the season.
They should have been the first seed. They blew it. They should have won the division.
Well, going
last
into
year.
the season, they were not expected
Teams
to.
I expected them to be a playoff team.
Well, yeah, but that's different than being top 2 in the division and losing it by 1 point. They had a chokehold on the division and lost like a bunch of games on the stretch and let Florida come back into it and lost a critical game late in the season to the Panthers, which ultimately lost them the spot. And then this season, I get they're not off to a good start, but the roster wasn't that well constructed. Like we talked last week with Jimmy. It's like you can't expect to go in and be a top 2 team in the Atlantic Division, but then the roster, you look at it, and your goaltending isn't good. You know you're not getting good play from your defense, but you know what? Let's scapegoat it on the head coach because we fucking can.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, just the fact that Montgomery was unemployed for 5 days, I think proves the mistake the Boston management has made. I get you're trying to shake up the room, trying to get the players going, but I don't know if firing Montgomery was the right move. We said this earlier when we talked with Mug on Wednesday. Like, I think we all agreed it was a mistake. Mm-hmm. I think the guy that needs to go in Boston is the GM, Don Sweeney. I mean, the result of this team being kind of an average team right now is the result of management not making the right moves. Maybe trading away Allmark was a bit of a mistake. I mean, in retrospect, in hindsight, maybe it was, but in the summer it made sense. And, you're not expecting Swayman to not be, continue what he was doing last year. I know he missed training camp, but still. But they don't have a number 1 center on this team. They really don't have any really great top 6 forwards outside of David Pastrnak now.
They didn't need to go out and get Zadorov because the blue line was already one of the best in the league. I get you tried to address your need with Elias Lindholm, and I give credit where credit's due, but Lindholm just hasn't been the same player he was last season.
He's a 2C, 3C. He's not a 1C.
I think 3C might be a little low, but I think 2C is right. Or you platoon him with another guy who's a 1B, 2A.
The Bruins
center.
don't have a 1B. They don't have a number 1 center on that team.
I thought they were fine. Like, I get they needed a number 1 center, but I thought they were okay with Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha with the roster that they had.
You could be okay with having not a number 1 center when your defense and goaltending has been as good as it is. And I think the goaltending being a little bit weaker has kind of exposed the defense a bit. Because, all offseason we were lauding, like, it doesn't really matter who plays goalie for the Bruins. Their defense is so good. It doesn't matter. It does matter now. And, I also want to say that I was getting called out in the summer for saying that the Bruins signing Sidorov was a mistake.
Everybody was fucking shitting on you in comment sections, bro. Because Zadorov got traded from Calgary to Vancouver, and he looked like a fucking menace in Vancouver. And he helped them get to the second round. Did they get to the second round or get bounced in the
They
first?
got to the second round.
Okay,
they
got
lost to
to
the Oilers in the second round.
That's right. They beat Nashville in the first round. He helped them get to the second round of the playoffs and helped them almost beat Edmonton, in which I still think if Brock Besser is on Vancouver, they get past Edmonton.
Would have made a difference, but
Yeah. But like. Yeah,
I was right though.
You were right.
I was 100% right.
And
I didn't like
props to you.
I didn't like the 5-year deal. You know, he's a very physical player, and if he's not playing his physical game, he's a liability.
For what? Is he third? He's a 30-year-old defenseman.
Yeah, I don't know how old he is, but I didn't like the signing when it happened. I would have been okay with it. It was like a 2 or 3 year deal, but 5 years, I think that was a mistake.
I felt like the Bruins went out this offseason and almost panic signed those two players.
They went and got guys that I guess they thought is like the only team we need to beat is the Florida Panthers, and they're like, we can already beat Toronto with this team. Like, not really much different from last year. Tampa Bay, we can feel like we can beat. We can't get out of our Atlantic Division bracket without beating the Florida Panthers. And
yeah,
they kind of went out. Guy like Zadorov is a guy that you get to play in the playoffs, to play against a physical team like the Florida Panthers. It doesn't matter if you don't get there, though.
Exactly. Right now, they're outside looking in, and right a week till Thanksgiving. Actually, 4 days till Thanksgiving.
They're right in that conversation.
I mean, they're only a point out behind Tampa Bay and Buffalo. They're at 22 points.
The East is kind of a mess right now, just in general.
I will
in that wild card race.
If this keeps,
the Bruins are in the last wild card spot right now.
Do they have the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay?
Yeah, no, they're a point ahead of Tampa.
Oh, okay. They must have.
They've also played. They've also played 3 more games than Tampa Bay.
Okay, makes sense. How many points are they at? 23, 22?
They have 23. They're 10-9-3.
Okay.
Yeah, and the Islanders are 2 points behind them. The Blue Jackets are 3 points behind them. The Flyers are 3 points. Detroit has kind of been on a skid lately. Pittsburgh. Ottawa's playing themselves out of the playoff conversation right now, so starting to clear up maybe a little bit. I mean, still too early to tell.
It is a little early to tell. Do you want to dive a little bit deeper into the East, because I feel like
sure, we can. I mean, Metropolitan, at least the top of that, is kind of looking like a bloodbath. You know, New Jersey's looking good. I mean, they still have played more games than everybody else in the league. Carolina's Carolina. They're exactly what I thought they were going to be. Washington has been the surprise this year with how good they've been. It's going to be curious to see how they keep going without Ovi.
They've lost 2 straight games.
Yeah.
I think they're 1-2 without Ovi at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, other guys are going to have to step up and replace it because Ovi's been playing really, really well for them. So
I felt like with the Washington Capitals, it was almost like they were going however far Ovi and Dylan Strome together took them with that solid goaltending. And obviously, Connor McMichael is top in the league in goals scored. Now, he's not number 1, but he's top 3 to 5, and he was a surprise for them. And then, you're going to have the Rangers in the mix as well with those 4 teams. I truthfully think it's a 4-team race in the Metro with the Devils, Hurricanes, Capitals, and Rangers.
I think the Capitals, this is going to be a really good measuring stick to see how legit they are or not, because whether they like it or not, Ovi's going to be done in a year or 2.
Yeah.
And you got to get used to life without him. And, you know, you bring in a guy like Pierre Dubois, and he step up in the absence of Ovi, your best player still. You know, Dylan Strome has been excellent this year. The guys a little bit lower in the lineup are going to have to step up and prove that they can win without Ovechkin. Rangers have kind of not been great lately. They've been kind of up and down. They got kind of murdered by Winnipeg yesterday, which isn't anything to really hang their heads about. But if you're the Rangers and you laud yourself as a cup contender, you got to be able to have really competitive games.
Like,
with a team
even
like the Jets.
I look at it like, obviously when you play a team in the East that's a contender as well, or just in general, you want to get those 2 points. But if you're playing a team in the Western Conference, like the best team in the league, the Winnipeg Jets, you want to at least salvage a point from it, even if you don't out there.
But
it
wasn't a close game.
Well,
though.
I know,
Yeah.
but if you go out and, like you said, if you call yourself a Stanley Cup contender per se, and one of the best teams in the East, you go out and play a team that was going into the game 17-3 or whatever it was, you have to come out with at least a point, or at least make it a close game. Like if you lose 5-4, for example, make it competitive. But they got the doors blown off of them.
I'm sorry, it wasn't the Jets that they played. I don't even know where
the Oilers.
They got killed by the Oilers.
Okay.
Yeah, Detroit has kind of surprised me with how bad they've been. They're horrific.
Outside of Sider and Edvinson, they've been horrible defense. This was I'm a certified Red Wings hater. Like, I know I've joked around about the Calgary Flames hating them, but I'm completely serious about the Red Wings when I say that I think everybody who had common sense could see the Red Wings not being successful this season. I know we're only 22 games into the season, but you have the Iser playing in quotation marks because he comes in and he's like, has this entire blueprint of how he's going to build the Red Wings. He's like, you know what? We're going to go out and get Tarasenko. We're going to re-sign Patty Kane. And nothing has worked out whatsoever. You go out and you're like, our top 6 is going to carry us. They're going to score a lot of goals. It's not scoring. They're averaging 2.5 goals per game.
I mean, their first line's been pretty good for them.
Their first line's gross with Larkin, Raymond, and is it Kane? The Brincat? Okay, I forgot about
Kane's
him.
playing on the second line.
With Tarasenko, that old-ass line.
Yeah, the old guy
Who's theirs? Oh, do they still have JT Compher?
Yes.
Is he the center of that line?
He's either the second line center or the third line center.
That would be funny if he was.
I mean, JT Compher's a 3C.
Yeah. It feels like in the East, we're going to start seeing teams separating each other. Like, I think this is kind of going to be how the West was last season, where we're going to know by around the trade deadline who the 8 possible playoff teams are going to be, and then maybe for that a playoff spot, whether it's a third spot in the division like the Atlantic Division or the wild card 2 spot where it might be up for grabs with a couple teams. I think it's going to be a complete opposite of what happened last season with the East.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because, I mean, just looking at the Western Conference, I think we both kind of assumed that the playoff teams in the West were kind of going to be the same as last year. Mm-hmm. Minnesota has been a surprise. Calgary's been a big surprise.
Yes.
I mean, they had a hot start, and it doesn't look like they're going away. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now. I mean, Edmonton and Colorado got off the slow starts. Edmonton, just poor goaltending, bad defense, and Colorado's been injured to hell and back.
Now they've won 3 straight
Colorado's
games.
Looking like themselves again. I mean, Nathan McKinnon's having another MVP caliber season. Cale Makar, I think, is in that conversation as well. Mikko Rantanen's having a really great year, too.
I don't want to sound crazy, but with the pace, hold up. How many points does Cale Makar have? 30, right?
Yes, 30.
30 divided by he's played 21 games.
I think he's one of the few players in that team that really hasn't missed any time.
All right.
Yeah.
So 82 game pace. If he plays every single game this season, he's on pace for 117 points. Now, do I think he's going to stay pace with that? Probably not, but you never know. It's Cale fucking Makar.
Yeah.
If he gets 110 points this season, I think he should be a unanimous Hart Trophy winner. As a defenseman, getting 110 points would be nuts.
But what if Nathan McKinnon gets like 130?
I don't care. I don't care. You still have to give it. We've seen Nathan McKinnon do it before. I don't want to take anything away from Nathan McKinnon or whoever else.
When was the last time that a defenseman won the Hart?
I'll look that up real quick. Okay, so the last defenseman to win the Hart Trophy was Chris Pronger during the 99 and 2000 season.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been 24 years.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone could do it, it's Cale Makar.
Cale Makar will do it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a league of his own.
A first ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done.
I mean, but also in the West, I mean, you got Vancouver, who's kind of been shaky to start the season. I mean, they're only a point out of the last wild card spot. Seattle's up there. I'm not going to talk about the Ducks because I hate them. But I mean, we'll just see with Calgary and Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota is keeping pace with Winnipeg right now, which is kind of shocking. So the Jets have played one more game with them, and the Wild are only 4 points back. So if the Wild, play one more game and they win, they're 2 points back behind the Jets. We all had that on our radar to start the year, right?
I'm kind of intrigued for that Central.
The Jets and the Wild battling for the top team in the league.
Well, we all thought it was going to be Dallas, Nashville, and Colorado. Monty signed a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't realize it was 5 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, just wait until a couple of years where the Blues are going to be good again because, they're building. I mean, they're kind of in a real 2 right now.
I feel like they're trying to get out of the full-on rebuild. We're going to be ass. I mean, right now they're 9-12-1 for 19 points with 22 games played.
I mean, they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year.
If I'm the Blues, truthfully, I think I would want to be bad for at least a season.
I mean,
nah, I'm not.
This is definitely a transition year for the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
You moving on from Berube last year. You're starting to lose a lot of that that core that you had from when you won the Stanley Cup. There's not really many players left from that team still
And if
there.
they are left, they're like 33, 34 years old.
I mean, I still think Colton Parayko is a pretty good defenseman. Binnington's been okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Luke Shen.
What so I want to get your 2 cents on it. I saw somebody actually report that Binnington could be a possible trade piece at the deadline if the Blues are completely out
I
of
mean,
it.
what's his contract looking like?
I think there's a couple more years left on it with $6 million. Okay, so goalie. So after this season, he has 2 more years at $6 million. So yeah, it runs through the 2026 season. So 25-26.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a team if St. Louis is willing to eat some of that salary. Mm-hmm. A goalie needy team.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he has to pick it up if the Blues even want really anything back for him. Now, I know the goalie market is it's strong, but when it comes to actually with assets, I don't think it is that strong because a lot of teams, when they have their elite goaltender, they're locking them up right away.
I mean, even backup goalies, teams are hesitant to trade. I mean, I think I've said this for a while, going back to like the COVID year. It became invaluable to have 2 quality goaltenders. I think in this league, especially nowadays, there's not many goalies that you could just play for like 60, 70 games and have them play strong in the playoffs. Very few I can think of off the top of my head that you can roll like that, like Shesterkin, Hellebuck.
I think that's the list.
That might. I mean,
I think that's truly the
back in
list.
Bobrovsky's heyday, you can run him like that. I don't know.
He's like 32,
now,
33 now.
But I mean, you got to keep him fresh for the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the Panthers did a couple seasons ago. They ended up running Solars a lot, or his last season or something, to keep Bobrovsky ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, it pays off.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's not many goalies in the league where you can just run through the gauntlet of a season like that. So it's because even having a good third goalie's been important.
I mean, Vasilevsky back then.
Yeah, Vasilevsky now, he definitely used to be a goalie that he was playing
he was playing 60,
70%, 80% of the games for the Lightning, and that would still be a stud in the playoffs. I mean, he's got a lot of mileage on him. He's older. I mean, no shame in that. He's still a good goalie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, even if Binnington gets traded to someone, he's just like a high-end backup. I think that's still something a team looks at doing if he's available for the right price.
Even if like a team, like you said, a high-end backup, if a team has their starting goaltender already and you bring Binnington in to back up the starting goaltender, if you're that team, you'll buy that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, especially if you want to be a cup contender.
Right. Like, what if? Okay, I'm not going into the complete in depth of which team I think could afford him, this and that, whatever. But like Tampa, for example, let's say they clear the cap space for him, they have the assets, they trade for Binnington. Now you have Binnington with Andrei Vasilevsky, and let's say Tampa is gonna be in the playoffs, and you trade for him at the deadline. Maybe take some weight off of Vasilevsky, who's gonna be your playoff starter, and run some Jordan Binnington down the stretch. Rest Vasilevsky, and then Vasi goes into the playoffs relatively.
Yeah, I mean. Does Binnington have any protection clauses in his contract?
Let me find that out for you.
Because Binnington might have something to say about that. I think he'd want to go up somewhere and start still.
I mean, that seems like the type of personality which I don't really mind if I'm Binnington, to be honest with you. Yeah, he has a modified no trade clause, and it is. He submits an 18-team no-trade list.
So half the league he can't be traded to.
Next season, it's 14, and then his last season through 26-27 is a 10-team, so he has 3 more seasons after this season.
Yeah, maybe not this year then is the year he gets traded.
Wait, no, I don't know why this thing's completely fucked up. It is 2 years after. It's 25, 26, 26, 27. Okay.
So it's a 15-year, it's a 14-team no-trade list this year?
This season it's 18 teams, next season 14, and then his last is 10.
So he has 2 more seasons after this year.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the Blues are going to be necessarily looking for Binnington to move. I mean, do they have – they don't really have another goalie right now, do they?
They have Hoffer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean – I would just keep him around. I don't think there's really urgency to trade him right now.
Unless you get an offer which you can't refuse.
Yeah, because how many teams are realistically looking for a starting goalie right now besides the Edmonton Oilers?
Not honestly, there's not really that many teams. Like if you look at it from a contender standpoint, in the East, every contender right now has a goaltender that they trust. Toronto, Florida, New Jersey, Carolina, Washington. I guess I can throw Buffalo in there as well.
No, they don't belong in contender conversation.
Well, I'm not talking about cup contender, but they're just right now they're in the thick of things. The Rangers, the Bruins
I could see maybe Carolina making a move if Frederick Anderson
is out long
doesn't
term.
get healthy. Because that's been their Achilles heel the last few years in the playoffs, has been goaltending.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Anderson can't even stay on the ice is hurting them at this point.
I mean, they're good enough to play through it, especially in a regular season. But in a playoff, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, Edmonton is definitely a team obviously going to be looking for a goalie. Maybe Vegas if they,
if they really feel the need.
I haven't really looked at Aiden Hill's numbers this year, but I'm sure he's been. I mean,
What about Colorado, Edmonton? Edmonton's been in on John Gibson and also been on a few players, but I feel like Colorado, if they could for some reason make the cap work, because they're already right up against the
They'd
cap
have to move the Georgiev contract.
somehow. What if both? Sorry, I'm on the spot right now, and I'm not like actually going in depth. But what if somehow making it work was swapping goalies at both 50% retain? Would that even make any sense, though?
Let me look at Georgiev's cap.
It's less than Binnington's. I think it's barely less. I think it's like 5.4 or something like that.
It's 3.4. So
Okay.
I don't even know if they'd have to retain, but I mean, realistically, you'd have to be sending Georgiev back and probably a good draft pick and a prospect.
I mean, at that point, there's Georgiev is playing worse than Binnington, but their sets aren't far off from each other.
But Binnington would be a big upgrade for Colorado.
Oh, he would be a big upgrade. I mean, if you can get Binnington in the deal, that's a W. And then you go over to Edmonton's side of things. Like, I think Binnington's going to be a name which comes up towards the deadline if the Blues really are like falling off a cliff. And Edmonton's looking at John Gibson, who's also making $6 million. So I think there's a couple connections with that. Now, if you're Edmonton, you need to figure something out with Stuart Skinner because his contract is up after this season. And how he played in the playoffs, it looks like he was going to earn himself a contract. Like, the Oilers got lucky that his contract wasn't up after last season because they would have given him a hefty contract.
Well, they got to pay Evan Bouchard now, too.
Yes.
So, I mean,
so you're obviously picking Bouchard over Skinner.
That Darnell Nurse contract is still holding this team back. If there's going to be a reason why they don't win the cup in this window, it's because of Darnell Nurse's contract.
1,000%. Even like, dude, if you had Darnell Nurse at like $5.5–6 million, like that would make a difference.
His contract
He's
is
at 9.5 right now.
Ridiculous. I don't blame him at all for taking the deal. But
I mean, his agent should get a fucking raise.
I mean, I don't know why Edmonton ever even offers him that contract. I mean, yeah, 9.25. Oof, like 6 more years. And he has a full movement clause. You ain't moving on that contract.
This motherfucker down on Nurse,
you can't even buy that out until maybe like there's 2 or 3 years left in the
Correct.
Yeah.
It's literally unmovable. You can't do anything with it.
And how much is Evan Bouchard going to get next year?
10.5.
Like, he's going to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then you got to pay Connor McDavid.
Yep.
And who knows what the fuck he's going to get.
You already paid Leon Draisaitl, which kicks in next season.
And he's going to $14 million. So McDavid's going to get more than that.
McDavid's going to go. If he gets more... This is my thing with the McDavid contract. I'm excited to get into it in the offseason and really speculate once everything starts coming to the surface with, like, the details and, like, the rumors. But if you're Connor McDavid, sure, you want a minimum of $14 million with Draisaitl, but I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out and is like, he wants $14 million.
I can see him getting 16.
I could see him getting 16. I think the range is going to be around 15. So
I mean, it's going to be up to him. I mean,
does he want to be nice guy and be like, you know what, I only want 14 to 15, or is he going to be like, fuck you, I want 16 to 17?
Yeah, I don't know if he's was willing to take a team-friendly deal. I mean,
because he already took one on his last deal by only taking, what was it, like $10 million?
I mean, I think anything under $16 million would be a team-friendly deal.
You have a good point there.
I mean, if he took $14 million on the Oilers, I'm thrilled.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Like, if you're in the Oilers spot, do you go into the deal knowing he's probably gonna ask for X amount of dollars. But like, we're gonna match Draisaitl's at 14 at first and see how he reacts.
I think I don't think you do that. I think you don't want to piss him off.
You think you want to start a little bit higher than what you would in normal contract
I
talks?
think you start the contract talks is like, what are you looking for? Like, obviously, we want to give you another 8-year contract. What kind of money are you looking at? And you kind of pitch them on like, we need to stay competitive and we want to pay you what you're worth, but we're not sure what you're asking for. Like here's our cap situation, and we want to pay you what you're worth. But realistically, it's going to be tougher to field a more competitive team if we're paying you 20% of our salary cap.
Yeah, and I wonder if the Oilers go into the situation like how the Dubas went into the Penguins and just give him like a bunch of offers on the table.
Connor McDavid's not going to – I don't think he's going to take a deal like Sidney Crosby. I mean,
No,
even
he's
Sidney
not gonna
Crosby
take
at his
8.7.
age taking 8.7 is still fucking insane.
I mean, he's not gonna go in. McDavid's not gonna take anything under 14 and a half. Like if the Oilers go in there is like offers anything less than they're 13.9, McDavid's saying fuck you, I'm leaving. He's gonna feel disrespected.
I don't think he just walks. That would be insane. That would be like I don't know if you remember when like LeBron left the Cavs the first time and like the whole free agents they had an ESPN SportsCenter special for an hour where it was called The Decision where LeBron like they did an interview with LeBron and LeBron revealed the team he was going to. They would do that with Connor McDavid in Canada.
They'd have it on Sportsnet all across every single TV would have that shit.
Yeah, it would be the Connor McDavid, The Decision.
The Connor McDavid, The Decision. You know what? The Decision, Connor McDavid edition. I like that.
I mean, but that's how big of if Connor McDavid somehow became a free agent, that would be insane.
That would be. You know what? That would be fun though. It'd be like drama filled, but like I would feel bad for some of the Oilers fans that we interact with. Are you kidding me? They have the best player of all time that's like up and leaves. Like I don't want that. I want McDavid.
They had Gretzky and he left.
That's true. Didn't he get traded though?
Which is even crazier. He never wanted to leave Edmonton.
No. Edmonton would never. They'll never do that now.
I mean, maybe this could be something we do more in the summer, but I think it'd be fun to kind of just think about what teams could even afford Connor McDavid. I mean,
I think it's gonna be a whole like 5 teams.
But seriously, like if Connor McDavid somehow becomes a free agent and he's looking at teams, like obviously he wants to win a cup. Because I don't know if the Oilers win a cup this year. I mean, they were my Stanley Cup pick going into the offseason. I don't know. I'm not feeling very confident about that right now. But
I mean, all you have to do is get in.
Yeah, all you got to do is get in, of course. But still, Stuart Skinner scares me.
He could be fucking with us right now and be like, I'm going to be bad now, and come playoff time, I'm turning into a Vezina.
I mean, they're going to need him to.
Yeah.
Especially because their depth signings haven't really been great. Jeff Skinner.
He's been Victor Arvidsson hasn't really lit up the room.
Yeah, they're missing Ryan McLeod right now, though.
A lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, by the way, Edmonton.
Very rare Sabres W.
I know.
But, Connor McDavid is obviously going to want to sign with a team where he feels like he can win the cup the fastest. I mean, but realistically, how many teams can A, fit his salary and B, be competitive enough to win a cup in X amount of years?
That's a great question. I don't know. That would be something fun to really go into.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun summer thing.
Yeah.
Well, we have like nothing to talk about.
Right
we
now
can just spend an hour talking, like going through like teams. Like, yeah, I really don't know that answer to that right now. I have to do a little bit of research. But
yeah. What do you think of the Hall of Fame inductees with Shea Weber, Pavel Datsyuk, and Jeremy Roenick?
First of all, congratulations to all these men. Very accomplished careers. You achieved the highest honor of being inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame, where you will live forever. So congratulations to them, first of all. I mean, Pavel Datsyuk, no-brainer, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best two-way forwards ever.
Yep.
The dude was just magic. You had to watch him every time he had the puck. It's such good hands, and he was so good defensively, too. Like, one of the best two-way forwards of all time.
As Chris stated, he walks so Patrice Bergeron can run.
And Patrice Bergeron, I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, too, but Pavel Datsyuk, he just makes Bergeron look like a novice. And then Jeremy Roenick, good for him for finally getting in. I don't know what took so long for him to get in. I thought like it was a long time. I don't know if he had beef with like the people who had to vote for the Hall. I mean, that is a thing.
I know that's a thing.
I know it's a big thing in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yes, with Pete Rose.
Yeah.
And Barry Bonds.
So good for Jeremy Roenick for finally getting in. Very long overdue, in my opinion. Shea Weber is the one that's interesting to me. He played a really long career. Was a really good defenseman for a long time. No Stanley Cups, of course. Never really won any major NHL awards. He won, I think, one Mark Messier Leadership Award. But he was one of the better captains in the league for a very long time. I still remember the day when Shea Weber and PK Subban got traded 1-for-1, and the NHL world was in shock.
It blew up.
I mean, it was just in the middle of the summer. It came out of nowhere. And that was when PK Subban was at like the height of his game, and Shea Weber was a really like a Norris contending defenseman. It was a shock.
Yeah. And they flip-flopped teams, and they still picked up right where they left off. It was like an even trade.
Yeah, I think it was an even trade. I mean, Nashville gets to the Stanley Cup final right away with PK Subban. Montreal somehow got there in Shea Weber's final year.
Yep.
So I think that was a win-win trade.
By the way, I have a little bit of a story that I found out from 32 Thoughts podcast. Is during that bubble run where the Canadians went to the Cup final, Shea Weber basically had no body left. He had multiple breaks, he had multiple bruises, multiple fractures, and Shea Weber, the team did not know that he was in this much pain. Like the players themselves and the coaches, whatever, because he would go, let's say the game was at 7 p.m. Eastern, he would get there at like 2 o'clock. And he would get treatment before anybody else got there because he didn't want anybody to find out how bad.
But he was still going to play regardless. I feel like the players had to know because I remember, when they lost the cup to Tampa, the first thing the players did was they all went over and like just
because
Shea Weber's hand because they knew he was probably done.
Yes, they all knew that was going to be his last season.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing people forget a lot about Shea Weber is he has 2 Olympic gold medals.
Yep.
Which does go – because you got to remember, this is the Hockey Hall of Fame, not the NHL Hall of Fame. I mean, even if it's just the NHL Hall of Fame, I still think he has a decent chance to get in. The only argument I can make, I think he is a Hall of Fame caliber player. The only thing is I'm not sure about first ballot.
Yeah, but like I think the thing that really pushed it over the edge was the international
2
resume.
gold medals goes a long way. I mean, he had one of the best slap shots in NHL history, too. I mean, great player, great career. I mean, I can't really argue too much about him being in the Hall of Fame.
And congrats to Joe Thornton, too, who got his jersey retired last night in San Jose. Well-deserved. He's a San Jose Sharks legend.
Shout out to Peyton Krebs, number 19 of the Sabres, scoring a goal, pointing at his number, then pointing up in the rafters.
Do you think that was more funny, or do you think that was more paying tribute?
I think it was a respect thing. I thought it was funny, but I think it was a respect thing.
It is kind of nice to see Peyton Krebs get on the board at all during the game.
Did you see that shot he scored? I don't know. He freaking ripped it.
No, I didn't. He has a good shot.
Dude, he put it perfect. I mean, the goalie was a good position. It's just he had this much space over his top shoulder, short side, and he just zinged it in there. I mean, I don't think any goalie was stopping that shot.
I love that.
But, yeah, no, shout out to Joe Thornton. Did they retire Marlowe's number already?
I don't know. I'll look that up.
Because that's another no-brainer for the Sharks to retire.
You know what they should have did? I never mind, because I was gonna say they should have did it like those two together, but then it would be better just to do it like.
I think it's better to do it separately, just to give them both
the spotlight. Give
them both the night they deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Thornton's one of the best playmakers I think in NHL history. I mean. He had a lot of really good years, 90-plus. I think he had a couple 100-plus point assist seasons.
One of the best playmakers of all time.
Still can't believe the Boston Bruins traded him away.
Yeah, so Thornton ended up joining Patrick Marleau as the only players to have their jerseys retired by the Sharks.
Yeah, I mean, I think Patrick Marleau is probably the best San Jose Shark of all time, though. I mean, he played most of his career there.
Yep.
So.
And Joe Thornton's number 2.
Yeah, very close number 2, but both first ballot Hall of Famers. Shout out to Joe Thornton again, and an amazing career. Shame he never got to accomplish his ultimate goal, win the Stanley Cup. He got really close a couple times.
Yep.
But
he tried at the end of his career just to kind of ride the wave and cup chase, and that's the thing with chasing championships. If you're a well-respected legend like Joe Thornton was, there's no problem with it, especially if you're on a team with San Jose, which you got close in 2016 when you go there and lose to the Penguins. And you have a Hall of Fame career. If you want to go out and join the Florida Panthers.
I mean, but there's been several teams that have players, historically good players that never won that have done that. I mean, I think it was Ray Bork. He won one with Colorado Avalanches last year.
Yep.
He was like blatantly cup chasing, and he got it. You know, because you can have, there's plenty of players that have historically amazing careers and just never won the Stanley Cup. It's so hard to win. It's a combination of, you know, getting the right matchups, everyone staying healthy, having a great season, and just getting hot at the right time. And, you know, San Jose, especially Joe Thornton's prime, they had a lot of very good teams that just never could get over the hump.
They were consistently one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
Yes.
And they would get to the Western Conference Finals. And I remember in 2018, they got to the Western Conference Finals against the St. Louis Blues, and they were up 3-2. And they just couldn't close the deal either.
I mean, I don't even know if they should have been there in the first. They probably lost in the first round of Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, they came back down 3-0 in one game.
In one power play.
Yeah, in a 5-minute power play in which Couture
That
got
probably shouldn't have been a 5-minute power
No.
play, but that doesn't matter anymore.
No.
But
Congrats to Joe Thornton on this achievement and joining Patrick Marleau.
and he'll be in the Hall of Fame in a couple of years.
Yeah, he'll be in there for sure.
Yeah.
That's going to end it for today's episode. If you guys enjoy all of our content, all of our socials are going to be down in the description below. Subscribe, notification bell if you guys are on Apple and Spotify. Head over to our YouTube, subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you guys in our next episode.